So, good morning. I'm with Ricardo Mapp dos Anjos from Fisher Meredith Solicitors. Ricardo is one of the most experienced property lawyers that I've met over the last, I've been property networking for about the last decade, and I met Ricardo probably about 3-4 years ago at an event in the city. Ricardo Mapp is the property partner for Fisher Meredith Solicitors. They're based in Chancery Lane, High Holborn. And I'm just here with Ricardo this morning, asking a few key questions about how you can make conveyancing go smoother, and for you just to discover a bit more about Ricardo Mapp and how he can help facilitate your next property move. So thanks for joining me, Ricardo. So in terms of going forward, in terms of conveyancing, how can people speed up the process? What can they do to ensure that a solicitor gets
the job done as quickly as possible? The key thing is preparation. With most things in life, it's preparation. So if you know you're going to be buying or selling a house, start looking for your solicitor now. Find a solicitor through recommendations. Don't necessarily go with the first solicitor that's suggested to you. Often estate agents may have referral fees and may wish to direct you that way for their own financial gain. It may be they have confidence in them also, but look around. Take referrals from your friends, people you trust. Maybe Google, have a look at the reviews. So get a solicitor in place as early as possible. You don't necessarily have to incur a lot of cost. You merely obtain a quote or estimate from them, tell them about your transaction, speak to them, sound them out, see if you feel comfortable chatting to them, if they've got time to deal with you, how responsive they are to your initial communications. Get them in place, and also start looking for your funding arrangements, and ensure that you've got the possibility of the mortgage funds and the arrangements for that. And then start your house hunting.
Sure.
I think that's a good initial step, I think.
What should people do to find a good property solicitor? So let's say they're based not in London, based in Birmingham or Manchester or Newcastle, so they don't necessarily want to communicate with a London solicitor. They'd rather have a solicitor who's based
more locally.
More locally.
There's advantages and disadvantages of having a solicitor near to you. In this day and age, it's not necessarily crucial that you have a solicitor that you can run to their office and see them. And in fact, more often than not, you probably won't see your solicitor in this day and age, the internet and the cyber world in which we increasingly live in. So whilst you might prefer having a solicitor that you can see and go and visit, it may not necessarily be crucial. We act for clients all over the country. As long as we're satisfied, we do our due diligence on identification and money laundering checks and what have you, and we're satisfied, then it shouldn't be a problem. But if you do prefer a solicitor that's local to you, again, do a little bit of research, speak to local agents, speak to friends, family who may have used services of a solicitor recently to move or remortgage, and get recommendations by word of mouth. Do a bit of Google, do a bit of reviewing there, see what names come up in the vicinity that you're looking for.
Sure. And in terms of yourself keeping up to date, we were discussing before this interview strategies like rent to rent. How do you keep up to date with all these different strategies?
Well, the law is constantly moving, so you need to keep up to date as a lawyer. You need to be giving your clients the best possible advice. You don't want to be out of date, telling the wrong information, of course. So personally, my strategy is to read widely. I have a subscription. The firm subscribed to LexisNexis, which is a huge legal database from which all of the staff have access, which gives us articles, access to statutes, information about the latest statutory instruments being issued. I also have an email that comes from them weekly and monthly that gives me those updates and summarises them, so I can then explore any that seem more pertinent or relevant that I need to know about. Everything from planning, stamp duty, to changes in law of all nature. In addition to that, like most solicitors, we're subscribed to the Law Society Gazette, so we get that weekly. I also subscribe to numerous property blogs and websites. A member of the Bold Group, we get good updates from them. They're very pertinent to residential conveyancing, and also I get emails, conveyancing today, and numerous other property, developmental and investment emails that might tell me what's going on commercially, but also tip towards trends that may be occurring.
Sure. We were discussing before the interview about enfranchisement, and you were saying there was two different methods you explained. Do you want to just explain?
That's right, yeah. Generally, the enfranchisement process covers situations where people want to extend their lease. There are generally two broad categories, either a voluntary lease extension or a statutory enfranchisement process. The voluntary lease extension occurs when you agree as a leaseholder with the landlord, the freeholder, or your superior leaseholder, if the case may be, to extend your lease. Generally speaking, it's wise to do that before you reach 80 years. Below that point, then what's known as the marriage value kicks in, and the premium that you pay for the lease extension will be higher. So I always advise people to try and increase their lease before it runs down to 80 years. The method, as I say, is a voluntary method where you agree with the landlord on a price. Obviously, you may want to take advice on that price. It may seem good, but you may well still be paying over the odds. So you might want to speak to a valuer and check that the price you're being offered is good. If it is, that's fine. You both apply to a solicitor, and like a conventional house purchase transaction, your solicitor will check the documentation, will negotiate any minor terms, you'll pay the premium, and your solicitor will then deal with the registration of that, and may perhaps liaise with your lender if your lender's involved and needs to consent to that also. Then alternatively, there is the enfranchisement process, which is a statutory regime, which is more detailed and invariably usually more costly. I generally recommend clients try and agree something first, because that's often a quicker and cheaper route, and it's a less adversarial route. The enfranchisement process is laid down by law and various statutes, and the process generally, in the sort of simplified terms, involves you determining a reasonable price, with a valuer as to how much the extension of your lease should be. You then serve a formal notice on the landlord, stating that price. The landlord has approximately 2 months to respond. Within that period, if they fail to respond, then that is deemed the sale price. If they do respond, they may agree with the price, or they may alternatively make a counter offer, and again a 2-month period is then afforded to you to accept that price, or perhaps even maybe try and negotiate something informally. After that period, you then reach a stalemate, whereby the step forward then is to then go to a land tribunal to have them agree upon the price, where you both produce your expert witnesses and agree upon that price. It then becomes a little bit more costly, but ideally, and in most cases, you would hope that before you get to that point, there's an agreement as to the market value of the property, which should be relatively identifiable, unless there's something unique about it.
So the second method could take quite a bit longer than the first one. But in terms of timescale, what would people be looking at the second method?
Well, in the second method, you have the preparation before you serve your notice. So there might be a couple of weeks where you take advice from a valuer. You would then also have to serve the notice and wait the 2 months period to expire. They may then respond within that 2 months, or at the end just before the end of the 2 months, which then gives another 2 months for you to then accept that. If either of you accept within either of those 2 month periods, then you can start the process. But if you don't, then you're on to at least 4 months and then you're heading towards the tribunal. And of course, throughout this period, once you serve a notice on the landlord, you will then become responsible for his legal fees and potentially his own valuation fee, which could add additional costs, no doubt. Whereas if you go down the informal route, then you agree upon a price, you're not bound statutorily to be responsible for his legal fees. You may agree to pay them, but it's not an obligation for you.
Sure. So I know you're quite big into networking. You attend things like my own meet, which is fantastic. I organise the Central London Property Meet. Ricardo attends that morning meet. It takes place on a monthly basis. It takes place in Central London at the Grosvenor Casino. Really easy to get to, yards away from Piccadilly Circus. So I also organise Central London Evening Meet, Wandsworth Property Meet. I know you're a really experienced networker. So what one tip would you give people who are listening to this video? What one thing do you do maybe differently to other people?
Right, good question. What do I do different? I'm not sure if I do anything massively differently. I try and find networking groups that I think will be complementary, and obviously your own, particularly with property, is directly targets the market I'm interested in. Buyers, sellers, landlords, people that constantly buy, sell, want to extend their lease, remortgage. Anyone involved in doing that is my ideal client. So property networks are great for me. I also attend BNI, recently joined that a few months ago, developing networks outside of just pure property base. In addition to that, I've identified a few other central London type networks where I attend, where they're general networking practices and some private client practices, various dinners and functions and meals, sometimes charity events. Go out, meet as many people as I can, get your card out there, make contact with them, see if there's some mutual benefit. And I think often that's the key. If you try to assist others, invariably that will bring you good favour and hopefully return the favour to you.
Sure. How best can people who are listening to this video connect with you? Is there a website or?
Yeah, Ricardo Mapp dos Anjos at fishermeredith.co.uk is my email, or even simply ric.mapp, M-A-P-P, at fishermeredith.co.uk. You can look at the Fisher Meredith website. You can Google us, www.fishermeredith.com, I suspect. So we're readily, easily available. I think we have various sort of online forums as well. We're on Facebook, Twitter. Our marketing manager is very good at opening up various channels of communication with clients and the public. So you should find us out there.
Brilliant. So I want to say huge thanks to Ricardo today, and thank you for listening as well.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you.